Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. That's right, I changed my name tonight. I am not going by Ace from the West Coast. I'm going by There Is No Ghost. And we'll get into that conversation a little bit later. But tonight, I'm also joined by none other than, that's right, we call him Big B. How you doing tonight, Big B?
Hey, doing good. Crazy day in sports all around, so can't wait to talk about some of that.
And then, of course, tonight I am joined by J-Mac. Tonight he's not called J-Mac the bearded one. He's just called J-Mac tonight. So how are you doing tonight, J-Mac?
Yeah, it's not a great beard day, so I didn't decide I would throw it out there. But other than that, it's good. We're just plugging along. It's really freaking hot, though. It's like 90 degrees here, and it's 9 o'clock where I'm at, and it's still like 86. So it's still I don't know how I'm gonna sleep.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. It's actually very hot over here. We actually just went out and bought a fan because it was so hot over here that I was like, okay, tonight I need a fan or I'm not sleeping. So, all right. So with that, everybody knows that, every Wednesday, which let's just say we're actually starting to come to the end of our lists now of top 5 quarterbacks list of all time. We only have like 3 teams left. And so this week, we got the privilege, I shall say, to do Jason's favorite team of all time. We call them the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders, because I know how J-Mac feels about the Raiders, as they like to call it. But this week, without further ado, guess who gets to go first? And that's right, it's not J-Mac, so don't worry, J-Mac, you don't have to go first. This week, we're going to actually go with none other than Mr. Brandon Herrera, Big B.
All right. I'm glad to start off this list. Doing some research, I forgot some quarterbacks even played for the Raiders. When started looking at things, and I'm like, oh, he played. I forgot Carson Palmer even played there for a couple of years. So, but anyway, so my top 5. I kind of had a hard time with my fifth spot, so I gave it to 2 people. I gave it to Jim Plunkett and Mark Wilson. I'm sorry. They kind of overlapped. They actually played there at the same time. So we'll start with Plunkett. He was 38-19. Mark Wilson was 31-19. 12,000 yards for Plunkett, and what do we got? 2 Super Bowls total for Plunkett and Wilson. So, and Plunkett was 8 of 12 in the postseason. So he did really good in the postseason. Their numbers kind of almost are identical to each other. So then moving on to number 4, Daryl Lamikin. I'm sorry if I butchered that. He was 62-16 and 6 ties, which shocked me. 16,000 yards, 148 touchdowns to 115 interceptions. He made the Pro Bowl. He had 1 AFL championship. And what shocked me is in 1963, he was drafted by the Packers in the NFL and then turned around and also got drafted by the Bills in the AFL. So that kind of stuck out on me. Number 3, I got Derek Carr, 3 Pro Bowls. Wow. But he leads in every category, passing category. But the only thing he doesn't have is anything in the playoffs. So that's kind of why I put him at number 3. Number 2, I got Rich Gannon, 4-time Pro Bowler, MVP, 45-29 record while he was there, 17,585 yards, 114 touchdowns to 50 picks, and he was 3-4 in the playoffs with 1 Super Bowl appearance. And then number 5, Kent Stabler, the Snake, 4 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl, 1 MVP, 69 26-1, 19 just over 19,000 yards, 143 TDs, 88 picks, and in the playoffs he was 7-4. So he got it done in the playoffs. So that's my top five, quick and simple.
All right, J-Mac, you now get the privilege and the pleasure of going with the Las Vegas/Oakland Raiders.
All right, number 5, Daryl LaMonica. He was there from 67 to 74. He had an All-Pro season. He led him to a 13-1 mark in that All-Pro season. The list goes on. He put AFL-NFL merger, yada, yada, yada. Then 4, you got Jim Plunkett at number 4. Jim Plunkett was great while he was there. 3 for me. Now, this was tough. I'll say 3 and 2 were tough. But for me, I have Derek Carr at 3. And I have Derek Carr at 3 because of his lack of success in the playoffs. That's the only reason I have him at 3. And I'm not saying playoffs mean everything. But the other 2 guys above him both led them to a Super Bowl. They didn't win it. One of them didn't win it, and I understand that. But both of them had MVP seasons in which they led the Raiders to the Super Bowl. And I think that was the reason why. For me, Rich Gannon was at number 2. And then, of course, Ken Stabler at number 1. And I don't know how you couldn't have Ken Stabler at number 1. Overall, just the things he did for the then Oakland and then LA Raiders. Now Las Vegas Raiders.
All right. Well, what a wonderful list, we shall say. So if I go ahead and we go ahead and start off with our top 5 quarterbacks list of all time for the Raiders, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start out with number 5 as Jamarcus Russell. And I'm completely kidding. No, I'm completely kidding. I would never put Jamarcus Russell on that list as a top 5 quarterback. But basically, everybody you had just said was pretty much in my top 5. The only really difference that I really had, as far as Derek Carr, I did not want to go, and I didn't want to put him as far up as, number 3. I still have him down there at number 4. I still like what he's done for the so-called Las Vegas Raiders right now. We don't want to call them Oakland anymore. They're now Las Vegas. But I think that one quarterback that people typically overlook when it comes to the Raiders organization is Hostetler. And the reason why I say people overlook it is because they see more of his time when he was with the Giants. But he actually spent 4 seasons with the Raiders. But his 4 seasons with the Raiders, he was actually 33 and 22. He was the one guy that I considered actually putting him on there. I was still at the point where I'm like, okay, do I want to put him in my top 5? Do I not want to? He didn't have like amazing standout numbers, but overall the win percentage, he was higher up there as a Raiders quarterback. But when you look at the overall Raiders quarterback, this is kind of one of those lists that you're like, oh, who do we really want to put on there? Well, obviously, you knew that Stabler was going to be on there. You knew that Plunkett was going to be on there. You knew that Carr was going to be on there. It was kind of the other 2. Who was going to be your other 2 on there? It could be George Blanda. It could be Hostetler. It could be Daryl. There could have just been so many other options out there. But I'm just glad that everybody came up with kind of, in a way, their own different list. I mean, we had basically about the same people, but we had them in different orders. But that's what I like. Huh?
No, go ahead. Finish your statement.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is what I like about these top 5 quarterbacks lists of all time, because when you do these things, well, I shouldn't say all time. I should say for a particular team all time. Yeah. And the reason why I say that, too, is because what you might see as a top 5 quarterback of a team, I might find different. Because with you might go, okay, I'm going to look at a top 5 quarterback of all time in a franchise, and you might be like, okay, Your thing might be how many touchdowns have they thrown? What is their TD to interception ratio? How many passing yards have they thrown? What's their passer rating? Well, J-Mac knows because I'm kind of the same with him. For me, wins is a big thing. I'm not all about, like the Super Bowl rings or the championship rings or whatever. For me, it's overall wins. What have you done? Because we know winning a championship is a team sport, and it takes defense. Defense wins championships. So I don't blame a championship loss on quarterback. So overall, I like to look at wins. But Big B, you were going to say something.
Yeah, when you sent out the list of, or the team that we're going to talk about, the first thing that popped in my mind was Jeff George. And I'm like, okay, so he's in my top 5. Carr, Stabler, And then when I started researching when I got time, it's like, oh, Jeff George is only there for like a year and a few games. I thought he was there a lot longer. So I'm like, okay, so he's not going to make my top 5. And then like you said, Hostetler, I forgot that he played there. I mean, and I actually thought Jamarcus Russell's numbers were a lot better outside of his win totals, but they weren't up there. So
no,
so I mean, you get to thinking one thing, and then once you start doing the research, then you're kind of flip flopping your number 4, number 5, or you got 2 of them, and with this comment that is posted with Randy, man, I tell you, I've been agreeing with him a lot more too. So there must be something in the water that I'm drinking or something. So
it's getting scary.
It is getting scary.
But I'm gonna jump to J-Mac for a second. And J-Mac, was there a quarterback that you were looking at that you almost put him in your top 5, but you're like, he's sitting right outside?
Mark Wilson, I think. I know Big B alluded to him. He didn't do a great job, but he was one of those. I'd call him a bridge or a gap quarterback. Like he did fine holding the spot, and then he won some games too. So it wasn't like he was complete garbage going in there. He's probably the one that I could have put in my top 5. I think over Darryl, but yeah. He probably would have been the only one because the Raiders haven't had some great quarterbacks recently.
No, the only one that
I think I'm sorry. I think didn't even cut you off, but I think you also maybe could have put Kerry Collins in there. Kerry Collins did a pretty good job when he was with the Raiders. So
yeah. And for his brief stint with the Raiders too, Jason Campbell was there. Jason Campbell wasn't amazing, but he actually won some games when he was with the Raiders. Jason Campbell was kind of one of those guys who could not find a particular team to stick with, but he was decent with the teams he played with. And with the Raiders, he actually had them on the winning side. So I was actually surprised that they actually had him walk away and didn't re-sign him, because I thought he could have actually done pretty good for the Raiders, but they let him go. But those top 5, you were going to say something, J-Mac.
I was just going to say, to me, Jason Campbell and Josh McCown are kind of in the same, they're kind of the same kind of guy. They hung around the league for a long time. They didn't put up staggering numbers, nothing that'll jump out at you, 12 to 15,000 passing yards, 150 touchdowns, something like that. Not numbers that'll blow you away, but numbers that if you had one of those guys on your team as a backup, you knew at least if your starter went down, they could step in and at least run your offense and at least keep you competitive in a game, or start the next week and keep you competitive. So I think those two guys are in the same kind of area for me.
All right. Big B, any final remaining thoughts on the top 5 quarterback list of the Raiders of all time?
I agree with J-Mac's last statement. Both those guys, like you said, if my starter went down and I had those as my backup, I'd be like, okay, we have, probably a 70% chance of winning, instead of 50-50. So.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump to our second topic of the night, which this might surprise you a little bit, which comes back to there is no GOAT. So the reason why I'm saying this is, hold on, which I'm getting to that. There is no GOAT in the NFL. There's no GOAT in the NBA. There's no GOAT in MLB. However, there's only one true GOAT in the history of sports, and that's right, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky is the true GOAT. But here's the rumors that are swirling right now, okay? So, which is kind of interesting. When I saw these rumors, I'm like, really? So people are really starting to consider this now. Because people are looking at how long Gordie Howe played. They're looking at what he's done in the NHL. And so they're saying, at what point do you consider even putting Gordie Howe in this conversation with Wayne Gretzky and potentially considering him as the GOAT in the NHL?
Never. I mean, Robert Parrish played 26 years in the NBA. Should we consider him up there with the GOAT conversation of all time? Let's see. George Blanda played 28 years in the NFL. Should we consider him that? Adam Vinatieri just retired. He was 48 years old. Julio Franco played for 26 years in the Major League Baseball. Is he up there considered as one of the best? I mean, come on. Longevity doesn't mean you're the GOAT. It just means you hung around forever.
No, and I don't think that they're only pertaining to longevity. I'm thinking that they're pertaining to what he's also accomplished. But when you dive into the numbers, this is what I'm saying. Wayne Gretzky is head over heels like over everybody. There's certain categories you can look at, like Mario Lemieux is going to be the closest to him in some. Yeah, Gordie Howe is going to be the closest to him in others, but overall, Gretzky is the guy. Gretzky's the guy.
How do I explain this other than the way Big B and I and you have explained this before? You take Wayne Gretzky's assists away all time in his career, and he still is the all-time leader in goals. You take his assists, you take his goals away, he's still the all-time leader in assists. That makes you the GOAT. That means no one has gotten close to you. I don't understand. I don't even know why this is a conversation. There's one. Well, to me, there's two true GOATs, but there's one that Wayne Gretzky's far and above everyone else.
Okay, but now that comes into speculation. What are you trying to say that your second one is? Just for a conversation piece, really quick, before we get to Big B on the Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky here.
Serena Williams in women's tennis. I don't think anyone's
Serena
come
Williams.
close. Yep, that would be my second true GOAT.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely agree with you on that one. Yeah, so I would definitely agree with that one. But when it comes to it, this is the reason why I said there is no GOAT, okay? Because it's like we're sitting here saying that in hockey, you're right. Nobody's even really, really close to Wayne Gretzky. Because you can take so many things away from Wayne Gretzky and he still has records. But if you look at the NBA side, if you look at the NFL side, if you look at the MLB side, okay, there's numbers that are so close to each other that you can't classify a true GOAT. Now, overall, I know people are talking about, well, when you look at the NBA and what Tom Brady has accomplished as far as Super Bowl rings, to me, you can't classify championships as the greatest of all time. You just can't. You can't do that. And the reason why I say you can't do that is simply because when you look at the NFL, it's definitely a team sport. Because we've all said that offense wins you games, but defense wins you championships. So you got to have a full offense, you got to have a full defense in order to win that. And even statistically, when you look at Tom Brady, yeah, he's got great numbers, but he's also played longer than the person who's right behind him in Drew Brees. And Drew Brees is like, they're right there. They were neck and neck. Now, Drew Brees is retiring, so of course Brady's going to have that. But it's so close that you can't consider a true GOAT in that aspect. And even when you come to the NBA, for the longest time, I said before it was Michael Jordan, but now to me, everything is so close when it comes to numbers and even rings. And people even talk about rings on the NBA side, and they say, you know what, Michael Jordan was 6-0 in the finals. He never lost in the finals. That's fine. But if people are going to classify it off of rings, then maybe you got to look at Bill Russell, because Bill Russell has 11. You have to look at Phil Jackson as being that player coach at times, because he has like 11 or 13 as a player coach. So you can't really classify it as rings. Okay, but we do have some comments that are rolling in here. So let's get to some comments here. So Randy Cox is saying, yeah, there is no GOAT in the NBA, but he's also saying that Gretzky is the GOAT. There's no question about it. And then Christy Wilson is also saying that Gretzky is most definitely the GOAT in hockey. There's no doubt in mind. She's also saying that Michael Jordan is most definitely the GOAT in the NBA. No one comes close to him. But
here's why they come close. Look, okay. So let's look at the facts here. Now, I saw a graphic that said the top shots taken in 2021 versus 2011. So basically, the only shots taken in the NBA these days are either three-pointers or dunks and layups. That's it. You don't see anyone with a mid-range game like Duncan and Kobe and all of them had in the early 2000s. Iverson was great with his mid-range game. Those guys scored points on that. So it's either three-point or not. So you can't compare that because these guys, they do is shoot threes. So you can't. To me, Jordan was the greatest individual one-on-one player of all time. And it's not close. Like, he could have beat anybody. He could have beat anyone. And he was not afraid of anybody.
And Jordan should play in this era.
Right. Everyone now says LeBron James, and let's get the facts. I am not a LeBron James fan. I'll put that out there. I'm not. But I can't deny the fact that the guy is talented. Okay?
Yep.
As far as talent-wise, and the fact that he could play any position on the floor, including point guard, makes him possibly the greatest all-around talented player of all time. I could see that. But the fact that he can't beat, there's certain people he can't beat. There's certain people he can't take one-on-one. He probably could never beat Shaq one-on-one, to be honest.
He probably couldn't beat Kobe.
He probably couldn't have beat Kobe. He probably couldn't have beat Duncan one-on-one, let's face it. Let's just keep going down the list. However, the point is, you can't really go with the different eras in basketball to find out who the GOAT is. Hockey hasn't changed. That's why you can call Gretzky the greatest, because hockey's the same. It's more exciting, I get, and it's faster, more goals scored now than there was, but hockey has essentially been the same game for the last 75 years. So you can put all those guys together and decide who the greatest is.
Yeah, because back then, it's just like you said, back then in the NBA, the three-pointer was more of a novelty shot. It was just something that wasn't around. Like, it's just something that didn't happen much. Nowadays, you have Steph Curry, which is possibly, okay. And we all know that Michael Jordan is a lot of people consider Michael Jordan the greatest shooter of all time. Now, but Steph Curry is possibly the greatest three-point shooter I've ever seen, because that guy can hit threes from anywhere on the court. And
when they pull up on the bus, he's in range. Let's just face it.
yeah, exactly.
But speaking of the NBA, I think that what we forget is that the game's evolved and it's completely different than it was before. But to allude to your point of the three-pointer, there was guys that made the team back in the 90s, early 2000s, even the 80s, based on the fact that they could hit a three-pointer. And in a late-game situation, that's why they were in the game, so they could hit that three. I mean, you got a Steve Kerr, Kyle Korver, that guy that played for the Jazz when they were doing their thing. It wasn't Stockton. It was the other guy. Hornacek. That was it. Yeah. Hornacek. He was a three-point shooter. I mean, you had guys that just specialized in shooting the three-pointer. Yep. Peja Stojakovic may have been the greatest of all time at that, by the way. Ray Allen. Those guys were three-point shooters.
Ray Allen is possibly the most clutch three-point shooter I've ever seen in my life. Like, that dude's hit more big shots than almost anybody I've seen in the history of the NBA.
Repping repping UConn, by the way. Yeah, but you're right. It's gone. That's why guys used to make the team, because you could make a 3-pointer. In the end of the game, they needed it. You got the ball.
Yep.
And now everyone's got to be able to shoot threes. And it's sad to say, but that is why Charles Barkley was making fun of Shaq, because Shaq's like, I could play now. And he's like, no, you couldn't, because you got to be able to shoot threes.
Yeah, you do. You really have to. It doesn't matter if you're a center, a power forward, a shooting guard. It doesn't matter at this point. You have to be able to hit threes. That's what it is now. Because centers are making threes now.
It's
You're
ridiculous.
seeing 7-footers. You're seeing 7-footers go out there and hit threes.
We transitioned in the last, I'll say, 10 to 12 years in the NBA from having an outside in game where you pulled them outside, threw it in, you got the dunk, you got the layup,
Nope.
you got the and one. That was what you were doing. Now it's an inside-out game. Like, you draw them inside to throw it out to just someone standing out there. And then when you see a 7'1" guy out on the three-point line, you're like, what? And then he swishes it, because that's what they do. They just stand around and practice threes all day. So it's really interesting watching the NBA nowadays.
I mean, could you see like Sean Bradley or Manute Bol or Akeem Olajuwon taking threes? I mean, all 7'2" plus. I mean,
exactly, but that would go back to also like Shaq or Yao Ming. Imagine Yao Ming going out there and trying to shoot a three, or Shaquille O'Neal trying to go out there and shoot a three. That's something that you're.
Hey, Shaq made one in his career. He was 1 for 22.
Yeah,
well,
but still,
that was still
was
back in the day when.
I know.
When a center took a three, it was like, oh my God, he's taking a three. It was more.
It's when it was like his second year in the league with the Magic.
Yeah.
They're throwing the ball in for halftime. They throw it just past the half-court line. He turns around and heaves the ball up in the air, and he makes it. And it's the only one he ever made. Yeah. And so you're just like, it was total luck on his part to even make that three. And I agree with that, but it's interesting how much it's changed. That's for sure.
But Big B, we never got your take on this whole thing between Gordie Howe, because we got pretty far off subject there, but that's okay. But
I have nothing different to say. Yeah. I mean, you guys nailed it.
Gretzky and Gordie Howe.
Yeah, Gretzky's by far the greatest. Like we've said, I mean, J-Mac alluded to it. You take half of Gretzky's stats away, he's still the best. So he's still the all-time points leader. I mean, in the other sports, it's. I mean, I don't consider anybody to be the greatest in other sports. I mean, Jordan, but then you look at it, you can break it down to Kobe was the greatest in his generation, LeBron now, so on. In football, I mean, there's so many different positions. I mean, Rice, Montana, Barry Sanders. I mean, you could talk who wants to be the GOAT at each position or whatever. But, I mean, to me, there's one true GOAT, like you guys said, like we've all said, it's Wayne Gretzky. And J-Mac's right. I mean, Serena Williams, I could probably throw, Tiger Woods in there for my generation of golf, being the greatest. But, I mean, there's still Arnold Palmer has more titles and stuff like that. So, until there's some kind of outline or everybody can agree on what we're going to critique as being the greatest, you can't. You're never going to sell the argument. It's it's kind of like how many looks does it take to get in the side of a Tootsie Pop or something. We'll never know because everybody's criteria is totally different.
Exactly. So I completely agree with the whole Serena Williams thing in tennis, because I've said that before too, that Serena Williams is possibly the greatest tennis player to ever play. Now you have a young player in Naomi Osaka now that's starting to really come up and be the next up-and-comer tennis player. So at some point, is she going to be just as good as Serena Williams? I don't know at this point, but she's definitely showing that she's got talent.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on the GOAT conversation, and then we can end this segment. I just want to say, we've watched it in our generation, Brandon and I for sure, and Ace as well. You go back and you look at who was considered the greatest baseball player of all time. Okay, you can go Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron. Nope. Well, now they're talking about other guys that are catching up to their stats, other guys that are doing this. Same in basketball, same in football. What's the one sport, we've been waiting for someone to take over who's never been better than anyone else. Wayne
would
Gretzky
definitely
in hockey.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's why he's the only true GOAT in sports, is because no one's ever. I mean, you're talking about a guy who retired 25 years ago. 25 years ago. And no one's even come close to anything as far as anyone
And still
saying they're the
has
greatest of
probably
all time.
It probably has every offensive category lead possible.
Right, and
You know,
that's my point. Like, in
Yeah.
25 years, no one's come close. No one said, oh, Alex Ovechkin's the next Wayne Gretzky. Like, no one even says that. And so, like, we
Or
see
Sidney
it all
Crosby
the time.
is the next.
Right, or
you know.
Sidney Crosby.
Well, yeah, Sydney, I would say, would when he came out, was probably the closest. As
Probably the closest.
this might be the next great, hockey player. But
Right.
Yeah, but you
fizzled
gotta.
out.
But we've
yeah,
seen
but
we've
you
seen
gotta
that
think.
in every other sport, but hockey's the one that is just no one's gotten close. No one breaks records all the time. That's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah, and it's like we showed. Can you imagine that one team to win Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux were actually playing together at one point?
It was Team Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that
In
was
the
crazy.
Olympics.
You had Gretzky and Mario Lemieux on the same freaking team. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was.
All right,
They
but-
won gold that year too. If anyone's curious, I mean, anyone surprised?
No, definitely not. But now transitioning, talking about, you were talking about in baseball. So now we can transition to the MLB side. And this is kind of the topic that I've been waiting for, because the topic is, it's simple, right? So you're going to have multiple names you could choose from. But I'm going to throw this out there and say, okay, so it's the bottom of the ninth. You have 2 outs. The bases are loaded. You're down by 1. Game 7 of the World Series. You can pick anybody to take that at bat ever. It can be in the history of baseball. It doesn't even matter. Who's that one guy that you're like, you know what? I trust him over anybody. I'm taking him. And Big B, I'll start out with you. Who are you taking?
man, it's tough because you could name off any power hitter because they're going to have to be pitched to. You can name any, Tony Gwynn out there that, because they can't pitch around a lot of these guys. For me, it's tough. I could have said, a bit of homer and took the pocket because he did it in 91. Joe Carter, I think in 92. Yeah, it's really tough. But honestly, if it was down to Game 7 with 2 outs, I'm going to take a guy that could probably hit for power, but also hit to get on, maybe draw some pitches. I got to take Tony Gwynn. I don't think there's any question that, a guy like him, and I hate to say it, Mauer possibly, but any guy that could spray the ball around every single part of that field, lay down a bunt, hit for power, I got to take Tony Gwynn.
All right, J-Mac, how about you? Who are you taking?
I'm not going to copy Big B's paper because that's not right, but that's a great answer. I have looked up so many stats on Tony Gwynn, by the way. The guy played for 20 years. 20 years. Now, think about this in today's game of baseball. He played 20 years.
Yep.
He struck out 317 times in 20 years.
Never struck out more than 100 though either, I don't believe.
Think about that. 317 times in 20 years, and you have guys that are striking out 220 times a season now. That's insane. And he hit 341 for his career.
Yeah.
And I heard a thing on the game I was watching today that said that right now the major league average
It's
is 256.
Okay. It dropped a little bit. Okay.
It used to be 275.
And 2 years ago, it was 275 in a full season. And the strikeouts are up. And, that's insane. A guy like Tony Gwynn that hit 341, struck out 317 times total. 10 times out of 10, I'm putting Tony Gwynn out there. I'm sorry. That no doubt. But I'm not going to.
Ted Williams?
I'm not going to copy your paper.
No, go ahead.
Because that's, that was a great answer. But there's other guys you could have. And so for me, I would actually I would actually go with Hank Aaron, not for the reasons you think, not for the home runs. I would go for Hank Aaron because of the RBIs. He's the all-time RBI leader, and he could get a base hit when he needed to. It wasn't all about the power for him.
Yep.
I mean, man, there's so many names. You could put Ted Williams, Ty Cobb, Willie Mays. There's so many guys you could pick. But my pick would be Hank Aaron.
So going back to what you're saying there for a second on Tony Gwynn, because the big debate right now has been, is the shift, killing baseball? Well, this is the interesting thing. When people are talking about, well, maybe that professional athletes need to learn how to hit oppo, hit the other way. Yep. There's one guy, though, that people have said, if there's anybody out there that could figure out how to beat the shift every time, that would be Tony Gwynn. He would be that guy that would come out and be like, shift? Really? You're going to put a shift on me? Okay, like I can't beat the shift. Like
I think Tony Gwynn and Rock Roof could probably be the only two that would be able to adjust to the shift and be able to spray that ball wherever they wanted to. I mean,
oh, definitely. And Hank Aaron's definitely another one of the, he's another one of those guys that you could definitely put up there as, you have 2 outs and game 7 of the World Series, you're down by 1 and you need him up there. But to me, and I may sound like a homer on this because he's kind of one of my biggest idols in baseball ever. He kind of got me into the Atlanta Braves. So J-Mac, you probably know where I'm going with this. Possibly one of the greatest third basemen to ever play the game. Probably one of the greatest switch hitters to ever play the game. But with that, I would have to go with Chipper Jones. And the reason I'm saying Chipper Jones is not only was he great at just purely getting on base with base hits and doubles and everything, but the dude had a freaking eye, man. That he could walk so much that you didn't only have to rely on him for his power. He had power. He could get base hits. He could get doubles. He could get triples. And he could walk. And that was like the big thing too. So his on-base percentage every year was just ridiculous because he's also another guy that barely ever struck out. He did not strike out at an alarming rate. He typically always put the ball in play. And so if there was one guy I would definitely trust, it would be Chipper Jones. He would be that guy I would stick out there. It would be Tony Gwynn and Chipper Jones. Definitely the top two that I would definitely put out there in those situations. Well, you might even also be able to look at maybe Ichiro too.
Yeah.
Because Ichiro, I mean, he was just a base hitting machine.
Well, the one thing with Chipper, I mean, like you said, Ace, is he's a switch hitter. So you got a lefty up there, he's going to bat right-handed. You got a righty up there, he's going to bat left. So, I mean, Chipper Jones is dual threat there because he could do it from both sides. So, yeah, Ichiro's another one, like you said. I mean, there's so many out there that you can't argue with anybody's. I mean, even with the comments coming in, I mean, there's definitely nobody that I've seen that they've thrown up there that I would disagree with. I mean, yeah, Big Papi. Randy says Hank Aaron, which we've already talked about. So, yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody. Griffey, But I don't think there's a wrong answer to this one.
So by the way, Brandon, by Big B, I got to tell you, I just looked this up to be sure. And in 1993, Tony Gwynn batted 577 times.
Yep.
He struck out 15 times. 15 in almost 600 plate appearances.
That's almost a week for some players.
Is that? I mean, that's I've seen guys strike out 15 times in 6 games. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, just think of the pitchers that struck out Tony Gwynn and could say, hey, I struck out possibly the greatest clutch hitter of all time or whatever. I mean, J-Mac, you had a stat a while back. I don't know if you recall it, but what was it? Tony Gwynn could have went 0 for...
Oh, yeah. So Tony Gwynn could have went 0 for 1,173.
And still batted 0?
He still would have hit 300 for his career.
Yeah, that's just outsane. That's just ridiculous. I mean...
So let me ask you this question because we're talking about hitters, right? Now we've talked about pitchers before too, but let me ask you this because everybody knows right now that Jacob deGrom is rehabbing. Okay, so we know that he pitched the other day in the minors because he's rehabbing. So let me ask you this: you're
That's
a
not
minor
fair.
leaguer. Exactly. He came in and pitched 2 innings
Single
and
A,
struck
wasn't
out.
it?
Yeah, and
I
and,
think it
and
was
struck
3 innings,
out.
but anyway.
Yeah, and struck out 6 batters in
Yeah.
3 innings. So can you imagine somebody coming up being like, "Yeah, I get to play baseball," and then you walk out there and Jacob deGrom is pitching you in single A, and you're like, "This is ridiculous. I gotta
I
pick
mean,
Jacob deGrom in single A."
I mean, the guy is just incredible. I mean, there is not a pitcher in baseball I would pick over Jacob deGrom right
Oh.
now. I know that I haven't been high on the guy, but you
I
know,
mean, the guy, it's
his
his.
ERA is .71.
Yeah.
0.71. Think
I mean-
about that, Big B. 0.71. His what did they say? His what did they call that? Walks and hits per 9 inning. His whip.
Yeah, let's
His
see
whip
here.
is like-
I got them up right now.
Was it .47 or something for his whip?
It's 0.57 right now for his whip.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that would not be fair being a single A player and having to face Jacob deGrom
Well,
in a rehab
you know,
game.
and then just
Like that's
you know,
not fair.
just looking at his stats here. I mean, he's got what 8 starts, 6 quality. He's 4-2 because his team can't score for him. But he's given up 4 earned runs. 3 of them have been on home runs.
No, go back to that for a second, by the way. He's 4-2 and his ERA is .71.
Yeah.
That means you lost 2 games in which you gave up 1 run.
Let's see here.
That's it.
Let's see if I can find his.
That's stupid. By the way, I shared something to our group. It's probably been a month or so now, but it said Jacob deGrom's Hall of Fame speech is going to be the shortest of all time because he gets to thank nobody.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'd like to thank my batting lineup for getting me 7 runs a game when in reality he's going to be like,
So it
well,
looks like okay.
I want to thank
like
you.
Yeah. So he's good. Okay, so in April he when he pitched there were 4-3, or no, I'm sorry, 2-3. He must have got a no decision in the game because he went 6 innings with 0 earned runs, ended up losing, so no decision there. And then he lost 3-0, and then 1-0. It looks like, and then after that he's just been untouchable with 3 straight wins. You know, I mean, the guy is just, you know, they're talking about moving the mound back, and
I want to face him.
you know, honestly, I mean, just think about it. We talked about, you know, like Tony Gwynn and stuff and Chipper Jones. I mean, that would be a heck of a matchup in their prime. You know, DeGrom against, you know, Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew, you know, Chipper Jones. I mean, just to see those battles. I mean, that'd probably be like a 30-pitch battle because nobody would give up.
Right. All right. Well, so now we're going to shift away from this here, and then this one's going to actually go to J-Mac. So J-Mac, who do you have for your spotlight player today?
Well, let's do what we do. Let me give you some stats, and you guys try to figure this out. So this person is let's see. So you 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 3-time League MVP, 8-time All-Star, 3-time All-Star Game MVP, 8-time first team, first all-team, 4-time second all-team, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, one of the top 15 players all time voted in their sports history. They have their number retired by their professional team. They have their number retired by their college team. They won, let's see, gold medals in 4 straight Olympics for their sport. And they were the number 7 overall pick in the inaugural draft for this league. That draft would have been in 1997.
Well, that's the WNBA, so
It is the WNBA. Okay, so it is a WNBA player.
okay.
I will give you. I will tell you
Was-
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Was this person ever traded?
No.
Rebecca
Played for the-
Lobo.
Played for the same team her entire
No,
career.
not that. I was going to say Rebecca Lobo, but she didn't come out the inaugural year.
All right, this one will
Well-
give it away. She played for the Los Angeles Sparks her entire career.
Cynthia Cooper.
Okay,
Nope.
Oh,
so it's not who I was thinking it was.
who was that other one?
I was gonna
God.
I was gonna say Dewana
She-
Boner, but that's not right.
She was also the first woman to dunk in a WNBA game.
Yeah, I can't think of her name now.
Yeah.
Lisa Leslie.
Lisa
Yes.
Leslie.
Thank
Yes.
you,
Yes.
Christina.
Lisa Leslie, yes.
Christina Wilson is the one that should get the point for that one.
So I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about that in her career, I mean, those things I listed off. She's an 8-time All NBA first team, second time. Just the thing, she's been about a top 15 player all time in her. And we talk about how women's sports are not in the limelight. Like those
Yep.
numbers are comparable with NBA players
Yep.
that get those numbers. She is in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. She's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Naismith National Basketball Hall of Fame. She won a gold medal in 96, 2000, 2004, and 2008. Just an incredible career. And Lisa Leslie should be remembered for wherever her
Anything.
number 9 is retired by the Sparks. Her number 33 is retired by USC. She was 6'5", which is very tall
Yeah.
for a WNBA player. Yeah, she won 2 championships for the Sparks.
That was the first two, wasn't it?
It was the first 2, and again, the first woman to dunk in a WNBA game. So Lisa Leslie is our spotlight player. Let's not forget women's sports are fantastic as well.
All right. Which now brings us to our final topic of the evening, which has been this little GM game that we've been playing.
Oh God.
You have to be excited about it. I mean, how could you not be excited about it?
Well, I'd be excited too if I had, 3 teams in the top 2 in my, that I got to pick from. I mean,
Well, I've got some decent teams going here. So with that, I will say I'm kind of right now. I'm kind of like mediocre here on a few of them that I have going. We got 3, and then who do I have over here? I also have 3 over here. So 3 and 3. Okay, so with that, Big B, I can go ahead and I can start with you. And I can say, how are your teams right now currently looking? What teams do you have, and how are they looking?
right now I have Baltimore, the Royals, Angels, Phillies, Cardinals, Rockies. Baltimore's in last. I think the Royals are still sitting in 3rd from last week. Angels are still sitting in 4th. I believe Philly was 1st, but then dropped to 2nd. Cardinals, I know, were 1st and dropped to 2nd. And the Rockies are hanging in 4th. My team's average is about a 3rd right now, so there's still some potential with my second-place teams to get into 1st and probably the Royals to move up. I have no hope for Baltimore to get out of last place, even though they just whooped up on the Twins the last 2 games. And the Rockies, I'm scared because I think they're probably going to drop back down to 5th. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's the start of June, and I know our lovely co-host J-Max said that he starts paying attention when it's June 1st and knows where her teams are at. So right now, that's where I'm going to see it. So hopefully the Rockies don't fall and my top 2 teams get back into the first place.
Well, I can look at some of J-Mac. Like J-Mac, I know is excited about a few of his teams, but I know one of his teams he's looking at now. He's like, "What a joke!" Because
2 of them.
I can tell you, two of them is
one of them I can agree with. That is
you want me to talk about it? In the National League, I have 3 teams. They have 7 points, and one of those teams has 5.
Okay.
When you have the Pirates and the D-backs, who are both in last place,
2 points.
they have 2 points. I have 3 teams, and I have 7 points in that league, and one team has 5 because I have the Mets.
So in your whole National League, you have 7 points.
And one team with 5. Yes.
It's horrible. Hey, at least though, when you look at the NL West, at least you have a little bit of hope that the D-backs can actually come out of last place and leapfrog the Rockies, which it could happen.
I guess, but holy crap, man.
Okay, how about the AL?
The AL, I have the Red Sox, so I have 4 points there. Then I have the frickin' Twins, so there's 1 point. So I have 5. And then I actually have the Astros in the West. So I actually have 11 points in the AL. I'm not sitting bad, but I do have the Twins. So
but you do have the Twins. So I know you're a little kind of crap about that. But now I can jump into my teams, okay? And I'll tell you how I'm looking right now. So it comes to the AL East. So we jump into the AL East. And the team that I have in the AL East currently is I actually have the New York Yankees, which is currently sitting in 3rd place. They're currently sitting in 3rd place, so I've got 3 points on that. But trust me, I don't want the Yankees. I can't stand the Yankees. So I hope for them to lose. And so now it sucks because I'm like, man, I need the points, but I really hope they still
Brandon,
lose.
you have the Orioles, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, man, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, and I believe in having some hope. But we're talking. I mean, we're 55 games into the season.
Yep. No,
and the Orioles are 11 games behind 4th place.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, the Orioles are pretty much stuck in 5th, but that's kind of like the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, but J-Mac, I mean, I'm a Twins fan, and, they just lost to the Orioles twice, so I wouldn't be throwing too much wind at the Twins or Orioles.
No,
they have 19 wins, man.
But the thing with the Twins though is that they actually have a shot at coming out of last place. They have
only because they play in the same division as the Tigers
and the Royals.
Yeah, but once the Twins start getting healthy, I mean, yeah, you could probably get them out of last place. But it seems like every other day they got a guy going down and injuries. So,
all right, finish your teams up, Ace.
But all right, no, yep, you're good. So I've got the Yankees in the AL East, which has me 3 points right now. And then we go to the AL Central, and I've got the Chicago White Sox that are first place right now. So they have me 5 points there. So I've got 8 points total. And then we come to the AL West, which kind of sucks because I've got the freaking Texas Rangers. And they have me 1 point right now. So I'm sitting at 9 points in the AL.
Well,
I've kind of lost hope. Yeah, you're winning the AL. Okay, and then we come to the National League, and I've got the Miami Marlins who are sitting in 4th place. So right now they've got me 2 points, 2 freaking points. Then we jump to the NL Central, and I've got the Milwaukee Brewers who are sitting in 3rd place. So they have me 3 points. So now I'm up to 5. And then we jump to the NL West, and I've got the Dodgers, and they've got me 3 points, and I'm at 8 points. So right now I'm sitting at a total of 17 points currently. So I'm not what you would call exactly tearing it up by any means right now with my teams. I've got a total of 17 points total, and I know that the Rangers are going to be in last place. I don't see them coming out of last place, so they're going to probably get me one point. Miami, I think they're going to be teetering at the bottom almost all season. And the Brewers, I'm not sure what about them yet. They've been sitting at 3rd pretty much the whole year. And then the Dodgers, I know they're only 1.5 games out of 1st place, which we all know the Dodgers are going to end up at least 1st or 2nd in the NL West. So those are the teams.
Congratulations to you, man, on having teams that aren't going to end up in last place. I just hope the Mets don't blow it. I mean, part of me hopes the Mets blow it because I'm a Braves fan. I hope the Mets blow it, but I'm stuck with the Pirates and the D-backs. I got 2 points.
And are you concerned that you're going to finish those just with 2 points with those 2 teams?
Yeah.
But the D-backs can pass the Rockies, so they can always get you another point. I don't think that the D-backs are going to be as bad as the Rockies.
I don't know, man. They're 2.5 games behind them right now.
Yeah, they are right now, but I think that they'll end up getting you more points as it goes on.
The D-backs have given up 297 runs this year.
Yes, they have. Yeah. But with that, since we've reached the end of our show, we finished our GM game, we have reached the end of our show. J-Mac, I'm going to start with you. Any remaining final thoughts?
Four Bros Radio Show was not with you on Monday for Memorial Day. We'll be back with you on Friday. So check that out. It'll be Friday at it'll be right around 9 Pacific time. That'll be back on Saturday. We'll be back with Sports Minute. Yeah, that's all I got right now. Continue to like, share, and follow Coast to Coast Entertainment Network and all of our sponsors.
And Mr. Big B, Brandon Herrera, let me tell you something, brother. Okay, good.
No, it's great chatting with you guys. Interacting with the viewers that come in. Join me Sunday. We're gonna have one more episode of Jeopardy. I know we teased possibly the last one, but I think to give our new champion a chance to defend his crown against J-Mac, hopefully, and Randy. And then after that, we'll probably do some Family Feud, get 2 teams of 3 going, and go from there. So please join us Sunday, noon Central, for You Think You Know.
Yeah, and so don't forget tomorrow, for us, we have 2 shows on tomorrow. We have Smells Like Hope. That comes on tomorrow night. And then after that, we have our 2nd episode of Speak Out with Trey Collis and myself. And
I hope there's a lot of LeBron James talk on that show.
It is not going to be LeBron James talk. I can tell you that now. It is not going to be LeBron. It's going to be NBA talk, but it is not going to be LeBron James talk.
Well, hopefully some LeBron bashing talk then.
It's going to be all kinds of different topics. Yep. You'll have to see. We're going to be talking about, our current predictions for some of the second round games, and then we're going to be recapping some of the first round games and some players from the first round. So stay tuned. Check out Speak Out. I think you're going to really like that. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to be another fantastic episode. And I want to thank everybody for watching another episode of Sports Minute. This is There Is No GOAT, J-Mac, and then, of course...
And let's not forget about Chris behind the stage there.
And then, of course, we have Chris behind the scenes. So I really hope everybody enjoyed, and we will See you guys next time.
All right.